A provincial government paid $231 million to cancel renewable energy contracts and physically tear out turbines that were already built. 8 years later, that same government just quietly signed deals for 1,300 megawatts of new wind and solar. Stay with us, because this story gets better. Welcome to the Scoreboard. I'm Alexandra Ives.
And I'm David Mercer. This week, the scoreboard wrote itself. We barely had to touch it.
You know a political narrative is completely finished when the people who built it have to start quietly taking it apart themselves.
We have the perfect case study this week. The Independent Electricity System Operator for Ontario, the IESO, just signed contracts for 1,300 megawatts of new renewable power.
That's wind and solar. And the central glaring irony is that this is the same provincial government that less than a decade ago made a very public show of canceling green energy contracts and paying hundreds of millions to have the physical infrastructure torn out of the ground.
So let's be clear. This isn't a change of heart or a newfound environmental conscience. This is the sound of economic reality beating a political ideology into submission on live television. The spreadsheets won.
And we have receipts, specific projects, specific dollar amounts, specific dates. By the time we get through the first segment, you will have everything you need to understand exactly how expensive this ideological detour actually was for Ontario taxpayers. All right, let's look at the then. The political crusade started in 2018. One of the most symbolic acts was the cancellation of the White Pines Wind Project in Prince Edward County. They didn't just stop the project. They paid to have the turbines that were already built physically dismantled and removed.
The Auditor General's 2021 report tallied the total cost of all those cancellations. The number was $231 million.
Sit with that for a second. $231 million. That is not a rounding error. That is a public admission, in dollar form, that someone made a catastrophically expensive political bet and lost. Keep that number in your head. We're coming back to it. $250 million. That's the official price tag for a political stunt. They paid a penalty to break contracts, and then they paid extra to have the hardware destroyed. Just to make an ideological point.
Now, fast forward to now. The IESO's April 2026 procurement report details the new deals. We're looking at 14 new projects, 10 new wind farms, 4 new solar installations. Together, they add up to that 1,300 megawatts. This is the first major competitive procurement for large-scale wind and solar in Ontario in over a decade.
So the math here is simple. Step 1. In 2018, spend $231 million of public money to prove you hate something. Step 2. In 2026, go shopping for more of that exact same thing because you've run out of other options. That's not a coherent policy journey. It's a confession. You were wrong, and the bills came due.
The why now is where the real pressure points are. The IESO and the government are facing two concrete walls. First, the wild volatility and high cost of natural gas generation, which they've been leaning on more and more. Second, the extremely long, multi-decade timelines for building new nuclear capacity. Those timelines don't match the need. The clock ran out.
They ran out of other people's money to waste on cancellations, and then they immediately ran out of time to pretend their alternatives worked. The unreliable renewables boogeyman they spent years inventing finally lost a fight to a basic accounting projection.
And that boogeyman, the entire political case against renewables, rested on two specific arguments, a cost argument and a reliability argument. Both of them have now collapsed. We're going to take them down one at a time, with the government's own public documents. That's next.
Let's pause the scoreboard and look at the playbook they were running from. The argument against building more renewables always rested on two pillars. The first was cost. The second was reliability, often framed as the intermittency problem.
Let's take down the cost pillar first because the receipts are public. The IESO's own 2025 annual planning outlook clearly states that new wind and solar are the lowest cost options for new electricity generation in Ontario. Now contrast that with the soaring cost of generating power from natural gas during peak demand. The market data didn't just undermine the talking point, it obliterated it.
So the too expensive argument is gone, demolished by the IESO's own documents. And if you think the reliability argument holds up any better, it doesn't. Here's exactly why. This hasn't been a real engineering problem for years, only a political one. The solution is grid flexibility. That means pairing renewables with grid-scale storage, like the batteries the IESO is now also procuring, and using our existing hydroelectric dams as a massive natural battery to balance the system. The IESO's grid-scale storage procurement program is literally the answer to the question they used to ask in bad faith.
And my personal favorite piece of theater is the subsidy claim. They love to scream subsidies about renewables, pretending every other energy source plays on a free market field. It's nonsense. All energy gets support. The difference is what you're buying. A subsidy for renewables buys down the high upfront cost of building the thing. You pay it once. A fossil fuel subsidy is a permanent blank check written to volatile global commodity markets. You're agreeing to cover the fuel cost forever. One is an investment, the other is a permanent liability. And here's the thing. This isn't just an Ontario story. The pattern we're going to show you in the final segment plays out everywhere. Same playbook, same collapse. Different province, different country, different commodity, same ending. And the precedent being set in Ontario right now has implications well beyond one power grid. That's where we're going next.
That's the systemic issue. This isn't just about one government. It's about a whole political playbook that treats complex infrastructure policy as culture war content. You pick a villain, in this case wind turbines, and you rally a base against it. It works until it doesn't. The problem is, physics and economics don't care about your narrative. The grid just needs electrons, affordable ones.
And that's the ultimate red flag. The final scoreboard entry for this section. The gap between the political story and the engineering report. When the minister's press release and the system operator's technical assessment disagree, the engineering report wins every single time. The story is optional. The laws of thermodynamics are not.
We promised you a pattern. Here it is. And once you see it clearly, you will spot it everywhere, and you will never unsee it.
The reason this U-turn is so significant isn't who's doing it, it's why. This wasn't activists or a sudden green wave. It was the system operators and the government's own accountants looking at the price forecasts and just realizing they had no other viable path.
Which creates a precedent you can't slogan away. The market has officially, publicly spoken. The business case for utility-scale renewables in Ontario is now bulletproof because the winning bids are in black and white. You can't argue with a lower number at a competitive auction.
So quietly, without any fanfare, the decade-long political freeze on large-scale wind and solar is over. The pressure of reality, the need for power, the cost of alternatives, finally just exceeded the strength of the narrative holding it back.
And that's the pattern to watch for everywhere. The whole just build more gas plants storyline has a fatal flaw. It collapses the second it hits a real-world constraint. A supply chain, a price shock, a delay. Reality walks in and conducts a brutal audit of political fiction every single time.
The most lasting legacy of the whole anti-renewables push might be that it successfully delayed the inevitable build-out by a decade, wasted $250 million, and in the end, provided the most expensive possible demonstration that their opponents were right. Final tally on the scoreboard. Reality, 1. Political theater, 0. And if that pattern feels familiar, if you've watched this exact sequence play out in other policies, other provinces, other countries, that's because it has. The playbook is always the same. The only variable is how long the narrative holds before reality breaks it.
If you want more breakdowns where the facts finally catch up to the outrage, where the spreadsheet beats the slogan, make sure you're subscribed. We'll see you next Saturday for the next scoreboard.
If you want more facts and less fear, hit subscribe. Check out the next breakdown wherever you're listening or watching. Stay sane, Canada.